I am Shusara Kumara. Welcome to Satsang. You are beginningless. You are endless. You are divine.
Good evening, everybody. This is Shusara Kumara, and you're listening to Satsang with the Shambhala Center. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I was away for a few weeks, actually writing a book, and it's beautiful to be back live on the air with you. Let's go ahead and I'll say quickly, of course, we are joined by PLAN and our other core council members, Linda, Megan, and Tim. And we'll go ahead and get started. So take a nice deep breath and get centered. Mother, Father, God that I am, through the great central sun hierarchy, through the office of the Christ, through the order of Melchizedek, I call upon Archangel Michael to bring the sapphire blue ray. Cut away, cut away, cut away anything in all of our four lower bodies not emanating directly from our I Am presence. I now call on Archangel Zachiel, keeper of the violet flame. Blaze, blaze, blaze the violet flame through all of our four lower vehicles. Transmute, transmute, transmute all the psychic debris Michael has cut free. I now bring forth the invincible ring pass knot and the mirror blue light of invisibility to completely surround each of us. And I call forth a pure shaft of Christed light to surround each one of us listening. And I ask that they be brought to the center of the earth, where I call on Archangel Gabriel to seal them. And I ask that the legions of Michael completely surround each shaft of pure Christed light. And now I ask that our vibrations be raised high above the psychic and astral worlds to the highest realm of illumined truth we each can attain at this time. And now, Mother, Father, God, we place ourselves in service to you and to humanity. I place myself in service as well as PLAN to all of you tonight. We ask that only that which is direct from you be permitted into our perceptions and that all else of the lower mind be kept out. And we ask that only that which is direct from you be permitted through us. And because we have asked this, we consider it so. So be it. Very well done. Come on back to me. We just had an amazing satsang session here in Charlotte, and I'm hoping we can bring some of what we just experienced with our group here to you over the air tonight. I had something kind of specific that I did want to talk about, and it is in relation to a blog posting that I did today on our website that we also put out on Facebook. So if anyone wants to go and actually read it for themselves, because I won't read it over the air, but you can go to the shambhalacenter.org, and then there's a tab for blogs, and you'll find it's the most recent one there. Or even on our Facebook page under the Shambhala Center, it's probably, several postings down. And what did I call it? Lending your support. What did I call it? Lend your support for change. Yes, that's it. Lend your support for change. Each week I try to blog something. And it's always something that seems to jump out as a needed thing for the collective to see. And so this week, it was really beautiful. I had a conversation with one of my students on Monday, and this particular topic came up in our conversation. And then on Tuesday night, we had a guest speaker in named Mary Reed. She's an amazing woman. I'll direct people if they're interested in looking into her work. She calls herself an unwitting mystic, and she came to speak to us just about her own journey, and just absolutely delightful. But it was very funny because in the question and answer period after, one of the questions that came, she actually answered in a way that brought the same exact topic up. So I looked at that and went, oh, it's definitely time to talk about that one. And it's something that a lot of seekers will be resistant to. So that's always fodder for me, because if I can find your resistance, then be sure that I'm going to talk about it. So let's talk about this. The point of lending your support for change was coming from the space of having an understanding. Now, if you listen to BBS radio, you already are in this camp, or you wouldn't listen to BBS radio, because they are, part of the vanguard of people on the planet who are doing the level of work to change the consciousness on the planet. So chances are, if you're listening, you're already in that camp with us. But what we have to recognize is the challenge that has been presented to us who are, in manifested form at this time, to usher in a new way of functioning and a completely new paradigm that I would call, the being in the higher conscious state of non-polarization, out of the state of polarization. It has to emerge from within it. Okay? So like the phoenix that rises out of the ashes, it's like that's what we're here to do. And this is no small feat. I mean, this is like, when I talk about it, you're going to understand exactly what I mean. I mean, this is really no minor task. You're talking about shifting consciousness in such a way that an entire paradigm that has been held by the collective for millions, if not billions of years, is going to literally shift to where we function from a completely and utterly different space. So kind of like the caterpillar that kind of, eats itself to the state where it goes in and cocoons itself, and then literally has to go through a complete dissolution process and turn to goo before it, re-solidifies as a butterfly and comes out that way. We are under the same process. Okay. So, and dissolution is the perfect word to use, because that's exactly what's going on here. The lower mind, which is the program that runs the paradigm of polarization, is literally in the process of dissolving. Okay. In that process, what you are experiencing is that your inner world and your outer world, you're starting to watch them fall apart. And you're starting to witness that your outer world actually is your inner world, which is a very hard thing for people to get their heads around. Linda just gave me a look. Okay. It's incredibly challenging, because for people who are here in service, and, most likely if you're listening, you are one of those people, we have to find the way to use the existing system so that we can birth something that can't exist within the existing system. Do you see? And it's very contradictory, because how do you use a structure that is obsolete to create the structure that will replace it, and therefore, annihilate it, so to speak? So people who are, on like the vanguard of change on the planet are people who can, who are already walking in that illumined state. They already walk in Christed consciousness, all right, in manifested form. And they can be teachers, spiritual teachers. They can be artists. They can be inventors, right? I mean, they could be anybody, but particularly kind of that group of people who are here to really awaken humanity. Because if left to humanity's own devices, it wouldn't be waking up anytime soon, would it? Right? If you've been listening to me long enough, you have the understanding that the lower mind is programmed in such a way that it is on autopilot, and it really is programmed so that, if there ever is a hiccup in the matrix, it corrects itself immediately so you don't see it, right? And for those of you who've watched the Matrix movies, you understand that piece, because that's what it is. If there's ever a moment where there seems to be a hole there, mind fills it very quickly. So then you just kind of go, oh, like, what was that? And then don't think anything more of it. And the thing that is so challenging is that the way those who who do walk from that level of unity consciousness, the way they are, forgive the way I'm going to say it, but the way they are programmed, not that it's a program, the way they function, the essence of them, does not exist within our current structure, right? And this is the thing that makes it so challenging. So if you take, we'll take a teacher, a spiritual teacher. Spiritual teachers who are truly awakened, they don't go around, charging an arm and a leg for their work. Most of them don't want to charge a dime for their work, right? Because their heart is just to wake everybody up, to give it away. It's this incredible gift that I have. First off, this incredible gift that was bestowed on me, and now it's my service to do what I can to bestow it on others. How does that work in today's paradigm where everything revolves around currency and everything revolves around the value that we've decided that we will put on currency, right? So if you said to someone, we'll use me as an example. If someone came up to me and said, okay, so you had a guy that you've been with for 9 years, and what value could you place on that from a financial standpoint? And my answer would be incredibly simple. It would be that there is no value. It just doesn't exist. If I had every dime that's ever been created on the planet, I would give it to her and it still wouldn't be enough, right? Because it transcends any concept of monetary value. But that doesn't help her pay her bills, does it? Right? I mean, she still is a living, breathing, walking, talking person who has to have transportation and food and, clothing and things like that. So here's an interesting thing. If you take someone who doesn't charge for their work, who is in a state of service 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, has a very, very refined nervous system, and has to funnel huge amounts of energy through it in order to do the work that they do, which is extremely taxing on the physical form. So we have these people who are on the planet who function in that space, and we don't even recognize them, do we? Really? Really? And how many seekers out there say that they're seekers, right? And think of themselves as being all, I'm all loving and everything's God. And then they come and they have time with a teacher at that caliber. And they'll sit with that teacher for 2 hours. And that teacher won't charge them a set amount of money, like an hourly fee, like a lawyer would, or an accountant, or a doctor, psychologist, right? And so they say, well, give from your heart. See what the value was to you and give from that place. right? And so the teacher, honestly doesn't care one way or another whether there's a dime there or not. It doesn't matter to the teacher. It's not about the money. It never has been, never will be, right? But when the person who was on the receiving end of that, when asked the value of what they received, if they say, oh my gosh, like I couldn't put a price on it. And then if you look at what they gave, and let's say they gave, $10 for 2 hours of that enlightened individual's time, you have to really look at where do they place their value. They probably spend more than that in a week at Starbucks, right? Right? And the point is not, of course, because I'm a spiritual teacher, this is something I'm up against. I have a family. I don't work another job. This is all I do. Right? We have a core group of people, a very small core group of people who are seriously committed to the Shambhala Center for Spiritual Awareness, and we foot every bill, right? Because people just there aren't patrons anymore the way there used to be in the Renaissance. In the Renaissance, Michelangelo was able to do his work because there were patrons out there who would pay him to be an artist, create, right? Create. And where are the patrons now? Where does the money get funneled? The money isn't getting funneled for creative endeavor anymore, right? The money's funneled in such a way that it will create more money for the people giving the money, not to benefit humanity. I mean, if that was the case, then, we would have been off of fossil fuels a whole long time ago, right? So inventors are dealing with the same thing right now. There are inventors out there who have created amazing things. There are engines out there that run on water. They absolutely could be applied to cars right now. Right now. And of course, that gets all held up in the whole patent process. And, you guys all know the stories, right? Now, I'm not here to kind of get into a discourse about like the Illuminati and like all of that stuff. That's not the point. The point is, I bring it to you so that you really start to look at where your place is in this whole dynamic. Because you are one of the people who says you want change. Or you wouldn't be listening to this program and you wouldn't be listening to BBS. You have an inner sense that things are messed up. You have an inner sense that things need to change. You do your part in the way you think, is good. You get on Facebook and you share all the information that goes out and you share all the great quotes and get behind them and that kind of stuff. But where else could you actually be adding your energy in such a way that it truly begins that forward movement, that you can get behind it in such a way that it creates the momentum that's needed to really, truly bring about change? What could you do that you aren't doing today? And why aren't you doing it today? See? That's my question for people. And this is why people don't like to sit and talk with me. Because that's a challenging question, isn't it? Because right now, people are going to feel victimized by what I just said. Oh, what do you mean I'm not doing enough? I know people who just work constantly and still feel like they're not doing enough, What are we here to do? We're here to literally change consciousness on a collective level on a planet. Do you think that's a small, minor thing? No. How is it going to happen if the people who are capable of actually creating and bringing in the exact things that will enable that to happen, how is it going to happen if they don't have the support so that they can do what they were sent here to do? What if, when it all came down to it, you were able to look back and go, oh my gosh, the reason that the planet didn't shift, or the reason that the planet shifted and we didn't go with it, was because we didn't support it. We said we wanted it, but we didn't actually, put our money where our mouth is, so to speak, right? Can you imagine? See, everybody, the seeker is a very selfish individual. I just probably lost half of you. Selfish and greedy. It's necessary, but it's also a huge pitfall. The seeker wants enlightenment. Yes. For whom? Well, for the seeker. It's all about me. It's all about what you're going to give me. It's all about what you can give me that I don't already have. And you know what? When it comes to being a seeker, it's your job to give it to me and to give it to me for nothing. Because that's what true spirituality is, right? Well, in a sense, yeah, because from a higher perspective, like I said, an enlightened being isn't going to be all about the money. That just is, it's counter to their nature, right? They know it's priceless, and money doesn't mean anything anyway. But we're not talking about the enlightened being. We're talking about the one who's seeking that state of consciousness. So what's your justifier for not giving? And I'm not just talking about money. Money's just energy. Everything's energy. So what energetically could you be giving that you're not, that would support those who are really, really walking their talk and who are really showing up every day tirelessly to make change? Do you have time? Maybe you don't have any money. You work paycheck to paycheck. You got some time? You got some time that you could volunteer to a cause that you love? Do it. You have a special skill, Are you an accountant who could donate your services to a nonprofit organization? Are you a lawyer who could donate legal service? Are you someone in marketing who could donate that skill? Do you own a supply store? Could you donate supplies to, a nonprofit group who needs paper and pencils and things like that? Are you something else? Do you own a car lot? Could you donate a vehicle so that a nonprofit could use it to run a fundraiser? See? Because where are they supposed to get their support from? It's one thing for people to show up. That's great. But at the end of the day, someone's got to pay for the space. Do you understand? We live on a planet where just in order to live here, you have to pay money. It's ridiculous. Your God-given right just to live, doesn't even exist here. It costs you money to live. And in a world that is so bountiful, you look at a fruit tree, right? Here's an apple tree, and one apple falls. And when that one apple falls and decays, how many seeds are in that one apple? And every one of those seeds could turn into another apple tree. How many apples were on that one tree? You see? And that's the world we live in. It is bountiful beyond measure. And yet we live in this space of scarcity where everybody's so afraid there's not enough to go around and I better get mine. And, I have to decide what the value is for everything. And of course, the ego, the lower mind is the one running the show. So what is it going to value, really? Well, it's going to value the things that serves it the most. From that place, it's not going to value the things that serve it from the place of an enlightened state. It's going to say, society says that the way I dress makes a difference, so I'll spend $400 on a pair of Jimmy Choos. Not think twice about it. But then I'm going to go to, mass on Sunday, and when they pass the plate, I'll give $5. Really? You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying there's anything wrong with spending $400 on a pair of shoes. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with putting $5 in a plate either. What I'm saying is I'm trying to bring your attention to what are you doing You say you want change. You pray for change. You lay there at night praying that this would all disappear and wanting to escape it. And you come to the Lord on your knees and you say, "Get me out of here. I don't understand this place. There's not enough love here. It doesn't make any sense." And you know what? You're right. But how's it going to change if no one shows up to make the change? What are we all going to do? We're just going to sit around and complain about it? You have to get behind the things that you, from a very, core place, believe in. And I don't mean believe in from the space of the ego. You have a conscience. Your conscience tells you what's right and what's wrong, and you know it. That conscience is divine. And on some level, and I sit down when I have a student, whenever I take on a one-on-one student, I will sit down and have this talk with them. I will say to them, look, I don't charge money for what I do, for my service to you. And what I can promise you is that when I sit with you, you have 100% of me every time I'm with you. I promise you that. If I can't give you that, I won't show up. So all I ask in return is that you take that and you look and you determine what that means to you. You sit in session with me and you see what happens, and then you walk away with an understanding of the impact that it had or didn't have on you. And you give from that place, whatever that means to you, right? Now, the reason I do that is because if we can do that, it's not karmically binding. If I give to you from my heart with no attachment to how much I get in return, and if you take from me from your heart and then you give back from your heart with no attachment to how I'm going to view it, we're completely clear. There is no karma there. There's no binding anything there. But I've had students who took advantage of that situation and would sit with me for hours on end and want to be with me every time they could. And I would always show up and I would watch things in their lives change. I would watch them have amazing shifts. They would be so happy, right? Never give me a dime. Never a dime. Do you think they felt good about it? No, they didn't feel good about it. Because anytime something came up about that, you could see their guilt. You could see their shame. Why? Because they knew. They knew that it wasn't on their end. It wasn't balanced, right? Their lives changed. They moved from a space of being depressed, in some cases on drugs. They moved from spaces of feeling like they wanted to kill themselves, right? They moved from places where they hated everyone and everything into a space where they could actually live a full life and embrace it. But yet we're still more concerned about having enough money to go out to dinner that Friday night. And then when they showed up to come to sit at Satsang and we asked if anyone wanted to give a donation, they gave nothing. You can't tell me that deep down inside they know that that was not right. That is karmically binding. My point here is to address each one of you, to ask you to look to your life right now. You are seekers. You seek truth. And maybe you're the kind of seeker who will, go through hell and back to find it. And kudos to you, because boy, you are few and far between. If you're even listening to me this far, you are a very unique person on the planet. Take the opportunity to look at who you've been very objectively to see, have I really stood behind what I do value? Have I? Or have I allowed that part of my life that is pretty menial to still just kind of run the show? Have I been giving lip service to one thing, but then using my energy in the form of whatever it is to actually support something else? especially something else that isn't even in alignment with where you're wanting to go. See, the thing is that people think that when they walk a spiritual path, it's all about that. And it doesn't matter how many times I say it. I always have to say it again. I had to say it again tonight at Satsang. Your life is your spiritual path. There is nothing outside of it. It is your life. It is every choice you make. Where do you make the choice from? Because that choice is either going to take you down the path of enlightenment or it's going to take you down the path of running away from it. Deeper and deeper into your slumber. And you say you're a seeker. And you want to be a seeker. But are you willing to really face up to the reality of how you function? And I want to make something very, very clear to people. In case you're running under some kind of delusion that it is due to the teachers and the inventors and the artists, that change will come, you are wrong. We could have every enlightened being on the planet working as hard as they possibly can. If they don't have any support, nothing is going to change. Do you understand that? The leader comes with a piece. It is a very small piece, people. It's the people who recognize what the leader has in potential and who come to support, not even to follow, to join with. As equals. As equals. Those are the ones who will change the world. Hear me. This is not a lie. Hear me. This is really important. I am very passionate about this. You can look to the life of Yeshua. Yeshua came, he did his work. Would there be a Christian church without him? Well, no. But would there be a Christian church without the disciples? Definitely not. Because then he'd just be one guy out there talking to a few people, and then they did their thing, and then they all died, and then the message is lost with that. Boom. Who gave you the Bible? Excuse me. Who gave you the New Testament? It wasn't Jesus, was it? No. The thing is, people look to the one who had the idea, or they look to the one who inspired the people or whatever, and then turn them into something they don't need to be. The inventors aren't out there for acclaim. The teachers aren't out there because they want to be put on a pedestal. Oh my God, that is so not what we're about. The only thing we want is to see the collective succeed. That's how we know we've done our job. You are the ones who make the greatest impact. Just like you've all heard it, you like to eat organic, you complain that it's too expensive. Well, you vote every day with your dollar, right? So when you go to the store, spend the extra 20 cents on the organic head of lettuce and show the powers that be in the food industry that you care about what you eat and you're not going to support GMO junk anymore. That's how change is made. I'm telling you the same thing. You want to change consciousness on the planet? Start backing the things where the people are already functioning from that level. Support that. Don't wait until change comes to get behind it. Be on the front end. Be part of the impetus that gets it moving. You're going to make a snowman? Well, someone's got to get behind that snowball or start pushing, right? How's it going to get any bigger? It starts with a little snowball the size of your two hands put together. Someone's got to push it around to pick up all the snow. I hope this is making an impact because it's time. It is just time for people to really, really get this. There are so many people out there who, their mission was to come to be at a high functioning level of service, and they have given up. They have quit. They're on the verge of quitting because they can't make it work. How many, one thing that comes up all the time are all the people who have felt like this calling to create, centers or retreats. How many of them make it? Not many. And you know the ones that do, right? Kripalu, and what's the one over in Eileen Caddy's group there? Findhorn, great group, Findhorn. Very few and far between, right? How did they get to where they are? Well, they had support, right? Support for something new. From people with sight. From people with sight who said, you know what? The world won't understand this, but I'm going to support it anyway. Because I get it. I get what it could be. I get what it is right now. You know the level of impact you have when you put your energy towards something that's already functioning from that high level of awareness? What you add to it? Oh, it's huge. You can't see it. And then the struggle is that we all are so set in our mindset of what it all means, how much is enough, and I gave this much and I shouldn't have to do more. And, look at it. How much of your dialogue is just very self-centered when you really look at it, right? And then look to the one, whether it's the inventor or whether it's the artist or the teacher, whatever, look to them and ask, could I say the same of them? Or will you see that they just give? They just give. Over and over and over again. And how do we recognize them in our world today? You see the uphill battle we're fighting? It's all of us. It's not just the people who are meant to, lead the way into battle. We're all having the same struggle. We all are. And the funny thing is that society says, if you think of it, we say we value certain things, but then in reality we don't. We say we value teachers, nurses, people who do rescue work like firemen and stuff like that. How much do they get paid? Right? And then when it comes to lawyers, we'll say, oh, they're a dime a dozen. They're lawyers, or a bunch of ambulance chasers. They're a bunch of crooks and blah, blah. How much do we pay them? Right? Where do we place our value? Why is it okay to place monetary value on something that you really don't value? Why have we decided as a collective that this is okay? I love it when it's always time for a new bond to come up or something about giving teachers raises, and hear all the people in the community all crying about it. Oh, they're going to raise our taxes, right? Spend a year as a teacher and then come back and tell me they don't deserve a raise. I grew up with a teacher, an English teacher. I know what it's like. I was trained as a teacher. I know what it's like. They work their butts off for nothing. And then people are like, oh, but they had the summers off. Yeah, well, they don't get paid for that. In case you didn't know. Those people are the future of your children, right? And how do we show them we value them? Give them a Christmas gift? You know? Give them a tchotchke at Christmas time. But the community itself doesn't value teachers, and we see that over and over and over again. The community itself doesn't value nurses either. Doctors make so much money. Nurses have to know almost as much as the doctors. And what do they make? Yeah. So I know it feels as though people are getting a real beating tonight. That's not the point, right? The point is it's just time for everyone to just be objective. Just look at it. Recognize that what we're trying to do is going to take a concerted effort on the part of the collective in order to make it happen. You had Sai Baba here in form, you know, an avatar, and we didn't see the ascension happen during his lifetime, did we? You think one person's going to do it? Really? You had God in physical form from a level that, you know, that was specific to Sai Baba. You're all God in physical form, but Sai Baba is different. That level of consciousness on the planet, and we didn't see the ascension. What makes you think it's going to happen without you? Right. Part of our whole thing that we, talk about here is, people have this big disparity between the spiritual teachings and then like living life. And they think they're two separate things. And so they use their spiritual understandings to kind of compensate for their lack of living a life or to do whatever. And we see it all the time. You're here to master life in physical form, in polarization. To move to the space where you can walk the middle path and you can be at peace and enjoy with all of it. And to live a full life. A very full life. That's how you show your gratitude. Live a full life. Love it. Right? Love it. Let's all love it in such a way that we can move our love forward. That we as a collective of those seeking, the ascended state, we can show those who are completely unawakened that, oh my gosh, we've had it all wrong. Because you know what? They're going to wake up. I know you can look at the world and what's going on and it seems like it's an impossibility. It's not. They are going to wake up. Every single one of them. It's just a matter of when. So are we going to kind of be the ones to push the process along? Or are we going to sit back and just kind of let it happen whenever it feels like happening? Where do you stand with that? Are you out in the world embodying Christ consciousness every day? Are you leading by example? Do you show up in the world and the people around you to show your level of compassion, your level of love, your level of understanding, and your level of non-attachment? Do you endeavor to do that every day? Or is it just too easy to, show up at your weekly church service and be all that there, and then the rest of the week, be your quote-unquote normal self? And if that's the case, you're missing the point. You won't leave this place until you master this place. You understand? There is no escaping it. The only time you can escape it is when you don't even care if you escape it anymore. And not from an apathetic place either. from the place of being in love with it. All of it. In all its craziness, right? And all of its chaos. And when you get to that place, then there's no need to come back. So look to your life and look to what you're doing on a daily basis and ask yourself the question, does this choice support where I want to go? Not from a place of guilt. This is not about guilt, people. Guilt does not work. You got enough of that already. Any true teacher will show you that. You can't ascend holding guilt. Doesn't work. No one's here to shame you. If you feel shame, it's there to show you there's something out of balance. That's all. And that's all you. That's not anything someone's putting on you. That's all you. You're holding it. Understand that. That's a biggie. Someone says something to you and you feel guilt. First thought is always to blame the person. Oh, you're trying to make me feel guilty. Right? No. You're allowing yourself to feel guilty. Why? Well, because you know something's not right. You're holding something that isn't in balance and believing it to be true, right? So right now, if you feel guilty about the place of I'm not doing enough, okay, you're out of balance. Great, find it. Because I'm going to tell you something. When you find it, you can end up doing the same exact thing that you were doing before I ever said this, and you won't feel guilty anymore. Whether or not you did any more or any less, it won't matter. Because it's done, and you've seen through it. Maybe all the time you were doing as much as you could. Maybe you were doing more than you could and kept pushing and pushing and pushing and felt guilty that you couldn't do more. It's out of balance. It's out of balance. Find the balance. Now, for some people, depending on where they're at in their walk, they are called to give that level of service where they are absolutely exhausted. They're called to do that, and they know that. But they don't feel guilt when they can recognize that they can't give more. There's no guilt there. They're willing to give everything they've got, recognizing that there's a limit to everything, right? And that even in that moment, if someone needs them, they know that if they don't have it, they don't have it. And in that moment, it's probably better for the other person that they don't get it. For whatever reason. You don't need to know the reason, but it's there. There are no accidents. Everything is playing out just perfectly, just the way it should. The point is to not be in denial about where you're sitting, to not be in the space where you are repressing things because you don't want to think about them. Right? To recognize the desires of the ego, of that personal self, and to recognize when those desires are not in accordance with a higher way of functioning. The thing is this, folks, if you have no interest in the ascension, well, then good for you. So live that life. Be worldly, Support the existing system. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. No one's saying that that's wrong. What I'm saying is, if you're going to pay lip service to something, back it up. You say you want to find God, you've got to be willing to walk it. It's that old cliche, walking your talk, but it's true. And there aren't a lot of people who really do that. Recognize the ones who are walking their talk. Get behind them when you feel called to do so. Do what you can. Don't be attached to an outcome. Recognize that giving the level that you give from is you doing your best, and it is what it is. You are not in control of the outcome, nor should you be. No one on this planet has enough sight to see the whole picture, to recognize how everything should be. So you do what you can and release it and be at peace with what you've done. Recognizing that not everybody's going to understand that. And so you are going to have some people be like, well, why can't you do more? And then you're going to have some people say, oh my gosh, you do too much. Right? Of course. They're viewing you from their lens, from their own filters. You're always going to get that. But you don't have to buy into their stories. You'll be good with you. Find your center. Function from it. Live from your core. If you can do that, you will bring light to the world in a way that you never anticipated even possible. And we will watch the world change at a rate that we never thought possible. Miracles are only miracles because we've convinced ourselves that they're unusual. And I will challenge you and tell you that the miracle is the norm. And anything outside of that is what's actually unusual. That's a good note to end. So we have a song tonight for our final meditation that I really do want you to listen to the words for. It's called Our Time is at Hand. And it's specifically for people who do know themselves to be here in service. This is truly meant for you. And I think it's actually in accordance with what I talked about tonight. So I will leave you with those words and have a wonderful Thanksgiving next week. We'll have an archive running. And then the following, I will be with you live again. So much love to all of you. Thank you so much. Good night.
Something new is stirring inside of you. It's something we're all going through. You're not alone. Though you try, this feeling won't be denied. It's as if a voice inside is calling you home. In your heart, you know you're here to play your part. This is where the future starts. You've waited so long, but now your time is at hand. Save the earth, and your time is at hand. If you believe that we can change the world, we can. We have the opportunity to love this planet free, and your time is at hand. Long ago, a promise was made, and so we each of us came here knowing this was the time. We are volunteers, and as the hour draws near, our course of action clear, our purpose defined. It's your turn now to honor that sacred vow. I know that you will not allow this chance to pass by. Your time is at hand. You have come to save the earth, and your time is at hand. For humanity's rebirth will make our stand. We have the opportunity to love this planet free. Your time is at hand. Up to you and me. We can change the course of this earth from destruction to victory. And our time is at hand. We have come to save the earth, and our time is at hand. Let light and love and power restore the plan. And when the dawn comes up, we'll see a world of peace and harmony. Our time is at hand. We have come to save the earth, and our time is at hand. If you believe that we can change this world, we can. We have the opportunity to love this planet free, and our time is at hand. Our time is at hand. Our time is at hand.
You are beginningless. You are endless. You are divine.